Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week of the Daily Dose. This week, we're tackling a topic that was launched by the author Angie Stanley. It's called Address the Mess. You see, I think in life, we all have messes. So many messes that we have to clean up time and time again. My oldest daughter, Mackenzie, she goes to school in Washington, D.C. She goes to college there. And after much thought and prayer last fall, we decided to go ahead and move her back to D.C. Because her school, like so many other colleges last fall, her school decided to be 100% online. So there wasn't any really major reason why she had to move back to D.C. She could have just stayed with us and done her schoolwork. But in so many ways, the pandemic has changed her college experience. And so we decided, and after some prayer and some thought, we decided to go ahead and move her back to DC so she could live in an apartment and do online school, but she could live in an apartment with a couple of friends. And here's the thing about apartment shopping. We had to do it online from halfway across the country during a pandemic. And it's really hard because there aren't even that many apartments that were available. Not a lot of people who were looking to sublet to a couple of college students last fall. You have to do a lot of online work, and then you have to set up these virtual tours and then assess the space just from a tour on someone's cell phone. And then you have to decide if this is the apartment that you're going to go with. And then you have to put down money. You have to put down a security deposit as well as the first month's rent without ever actually seeing the apartment. It's very stressful. Well, we found an apartment and it was fully furnished so that the students, the girls, they didn't have to bring all their stuff across the country. And that's what we wanted. And when we did our virtual tour, it looked really good. And she and her two roommates, we sent in the money and we had it all secured for her to live there in the fall. And at the end of August, Mackenzie and I, we loaded up our car and we headed out east. As we're headed down the interstate, somewhere in Ohio, Mackenzie's roommate Claire called because she had arrived first to this new apartment, this apartment that none of them had actually seen before. And Claire arrived, she went up these 50 stairs because this apartment was on the 4th floor of a building, and then she called Mackenzie to say she had gotten the keys and she was in the apartment. She called Mackenzie and she was crying. And she said, "Mackenzie, the apartment is a mess. I don't know what to do." And it was a day later when Mackenzie and I finished our trip across the country and we arrived and we climbed those same 50 stairs and walked into this 4th floor apartment. And it was a mess, like a total, complete mess. There were dirty dishes in the sink, and there was a closet that looked like it was stuffed by hoarders, and there was hair in the shower. Ugh. There were clothes, and there was unemptied trash cans, and there were these weird personal items that were just left sitting there around. And I won't even really tell you about the bathroom. It was so gross. This apartment was a total, complete mess. You see, I think we all have messes in our lives sometimes. Sometimes it's a physical mess, just like this apartment. Like we have too much junk in our garage or too much stuff in our junk drawer. Or maybe your apartment needs a deep clean. But sometimes there are other messes in life. Like maybe your family's a mess. Like you just can't seem to get everyone to get along. And when you're all in the same room, everybody just seems to bicker and fight. Or maybe you're in school and you look at your grades and you feel like your GPA is a mess. You just have tried to get that math grade up, but you just can't seem to get the concepts. Or maybe you're in a relationship that's a mess, like one that people kind of warned you about maybe somewhere along the line. They said, "Hey, he's kind of a mess. I'm not sure you should be dating him." But you, in your infatuation, you were like, no, I can fix him with our love. But yet here you are years later and this relationship is still a mess. Or maybe for you, your kids are a mess, right? Like you can't figure out how to talk to them, how to parent them. You can't figure out how to take care of their daily needs without them freaking out. And it's just a mess. Or maybe your mess is more like your finances or your house. And see, here's the thing I think we forget all the time. I think we forget that we all have messes. I mean, even if you're not feeling like a mess today, maybe today was one of the good ones, but chances are there is another mess for you just around the corner We all have these messes. And here's the thing about messes. We tend to try and want to feel better about these messes, or we want to hide these messes and not deal with them. So what we do is we compare our messes to the other people around us. We look at the messes that other people are in and we assume that they are in that mess for a reason. And then we compare ourselves to their mess. And we do this all the time. I mean, think about it. We have whole television shows devoted to it. If you look at any talk show, it's just people talking about the messes that they are in and trying to figure out ways to resolve it. If you watch any news program, they're pointing fingers and blaming another political party, probably, about the mess that the world is in. And it's in all the magazines you see as you check out of the grocery store. I mean, the royal family is a mess, or these celebrities' lives are a mess, or you can buy one that says, this is how to fix your mess in 5 easy steps. You see, I think that we're obsessed with other people's messes because we either want to fix it or we want to judge it. And I think it's like this for 2 reasons. I think one reason is that when we look at their mess, it kind of gives us a sense of superiority. Like, well, I'm a mess, but it's nothing compared to what the royals are going through. Or number 2, it numbs us and it creates a distraction for us to actually deal with our own mess. We become so busy focused on and judging another person's mess that we don't take any time to deal with the mess that we have on our own. Friends, it's our messes. Our messes are exactly the reason why Jesus came into this world, to address the mess, to look at and examine and deal with our own stuff. And then when we look at other people's stuff, to empathize and accompany each other who are in their own mess, to realize the weight of our mess, that we are all in this mess together. The Apostle Paul writes in the book of Romans, "For we know whatever the law says, and those under the law, so that every mouth may be silenced, and the whole world will be kept accountable to God. Therefore, no one, not a single one, will be declared righteous in God's sight by the works of the law. Rather, through the law, we become conscious of our own sin. We see our own mess." And then Paul continues and says, "There is no difference between Jew or Gentile, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. And therefore we are all justly freed by his grace through the redemption that came from Jesus Christ." Friends, we all have messes, but the reality is that we are all in this mess together. And we have a God that chooses to go into this mess with us, for you and for me. So as Mackenzie, Claire, and I looked at this terribly messy apartment, I said, girls, I think we got 2 choices. One, we argue. We argue about the money, the deposit we put down, and we may try and find another apartment this week. Or 2, we got to get some gloves on, and we got to get to work to address this mess. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Daily Dose tonight, and continue to join us this week as we talk about addressing the messes in our lives. If you're somebody who's joining us on Facebook or YouTube, I want to invite you to share and subscribe. Maybe tag someone in there that maybe is dealing with their own mess. If you're joining us on cable access, will you invite a friend to join you tomorrow? And as we close up, I want to invite you to our in-person worship, which is coming right here on May 30th. On May 30th, we're going to have an 8 o'clock traditional liturgical worship service here in the sanctuary at Calvary at 605 Douglas Street, Alexandria, Minnesota. And then at 10 o'clock, we're going to go over to Luther Crest Bible Camp on the shores of beautiful Lake Carlos here in Alexandria for our 10 o'clock modern Calvary at the Lake outdoor worship. If you come early, we'll even feed you brunch starting at 9. We are so glad that you are with us.